Nau mai, haere mai, and welcome to today's webinar. I've been looking forward to this one. It's always great working with Holden Hohaia, who's joining us today to talk about free open source QGIS and his experience in working through some data and using QGIS. He's a very enthusiastic GIS user. And also joined today by Tania Te Hira from Statistics New Zealand, and she's going to be showing us how to access some of the data. And then if we have time, only if we have time, I'll show you a little show and tell at the end. But yeah, without further ado, or maybe just some housekeeping, if you can just please mute your microphone unless you're actively participating. We hope we will have some time for questions partai at the end, but also if you have questions partai, put them in the chat and I can grab Holden and at the right time, and just so that we have a smooth webinar. If this is being recorded, so in a couple of weeks, it'll be shared online on our Ngā Poutama Mata Whenua on the LINZ YouTube. So there are a whole bunch there. There's maybe 20 or 30. So feel free to go and have a look there as well. And we'll be putting links in the chat so you can feel free to listen, have a tutu at the same time. And yeah, so hopefully it's an enjoyable session for everyone, something for everyone from professionals to noobs. And I'm going to hand over to you. Where are we going to start? We're going to start with Tania. Tania's going to give us a wee introduction. So I'll hand it over to you, e hoa.
O tēnā koutou, thanks Dwayne. So ko Tania tōku ingoa, ko ngā puhi o ku rawa pu te rarawa o ku iwi. I'm from Tatauranga Aotearoa, and I'm just going to very quickly go through where to find the data and what data there is. So I will quickly share my screen. Just go over to this, and I'm going to quickly put this link in the chat. So we have a website that you can go to that has all of the census data in a geospatial format, and it's called Data Finder or Stats NZ Geographic Data Service, and it has previous census data as well as the current census data, as well as other like geographic and statistical boundaries. So there are a couple of ways you can find the data, but I find that going over to browse and category, and going down to census and census 2023 is a good way to quickly get to the geography that you might want to look at and use for the particular data that you're interested in. So for this demo, I'm just going to go to Statistical Area 1. And sorry, earlier I should have said the data that I'll quickly be showing is the totals by topic data. So it would have been at the end of last year, we released totals by topic data set, which has got more detailed data in it. So the 4 data sets are individuals, families and extended families, households and dwellings. And they are available at Statistical Area 1 and Statistical Area 2. So, but first I'll go to Statistical Area 1. And as you can see here, that basically has all of the data sets for census at SA1 or statistical area 1.
Tania, what's a SA1?
So statistical area 1, it's the geography that's just released above mesh block. That's a really, really good question. So we have mesh blocks, which is you'll probably know, the smallest unit of data collection. And then statistical area 1 was created just above mesh blocks. So more data could be released, just because at mesh block level there does tend to be a lot of data that is confidentialized just because of the population, and the dwelling numbers within the mesh block. So to try and release more data at a smaller level, yet keep confidentiality. We've got SA1s, and in a lot of situations, statistical area 1 and mesh blocks match each other. But it's, yeah, once you get out to more of the rural areas, changes a little bit. So yeah, basically it's just a geography that is just above mesh blocks and allows for a little bit more data to be released, yet allows for kind of smaller areas. Here's the data sets here, and I'll remove that. And okay, so I'm going to add households by statistical area 1. So I click on map, and then you hit export. Right, so because I'm already logged in, it goes straight to this screen. On this platform, to download any data, you do have to sign up with an account, and that will be with a coordinates account, basically because this is built on top of the coordinates platform. But it's free to sign up for an account if you don't already have one. And yeah, it's great. It means you can kind of access other platforms as well that are built on top of the coordinates platform, if you don't already use it. So yeah, so after you've signed in, if you aren't already signed in, it takes you to this screen to download the file. And so you've got your different coordinate reference systems. Generally stick to this one, New Zealand Transverse Mercator 2000. And then there's different data types you can download the data in. But in this instance, I'm just going to download it as a shape file. And also, if you want to subset the data, you can use this little crop tool. But anyways, in this case, I'm just going to download the full data set. It is quite a large one, so you hit create export. And sorry, I've downloaded it quite a few times to yeah, for this session. And then basically hit export, and it will start to download the data. So while that's downloading, I'm going to actually go over to the data sets that have already been downloaded. Okay, it's just downloaded. And so you can see it there. So you'll find it in your downloads, and what you can do is you can extract it and then browse to file where you want to store the data and select folder and extract it. So in the extracted folder, you have all these different files, but there's a couple of important ones. So with the download, there's this thing called a lookup table that is also downloaded, and I'll just go over to QGIS now and show why that table is important. And it's kind of it's to do with the way we format the data itself with the names, which it's not great, but yeah. Anyway, so over to QGIS. So I've got my data in here. What I've actually done is I've just added my directory where the data is by going into favorites and adding it that way. And then as you can see, the data is there. So I've downloaded households and individuals. And I've currently got individuals in there. So I don't know if this can be seen, but on the side panel, if you click on it, if it works, okay, keep these values. You can see the variables there. Just click somewhere else where there's. Sorry, this has been really slow the entire morning. Right, so this is the reason why there's a lookup table. As you can see, the data that is downloaded from Data Finder, it's got these field names, which the census team find helpful, but to everyone else, they're not good. I'm just like, why? And unfortunately in Data Finder, you can't. So what we tried to do was some of the files, well, what we have done is put a field alias in there so we can add a name that makes sense. And Dwayne's gonna go more into that with how you can access that through services. But if you're wanting to just download the data and you're like, what the heck are these field names? Open up the lookup table. So this one here. And sorry, I'm just going to move that. Hopefully that hasn't been blocking screen. So as you'll see here, you can see here, column name, shapefile name, it's got those variables and files. Sorry, variable names. And then with we've got this column here called field name alias, and it's still not that great because there's still stuff that could be removed from the field alias name, but it gives you a really good idea about what those columns and variables are for. So for example, bar_1_3, that is your census, that's the census usually resident population count total. And sorry, I'm just going to go back to QGIS and we have it there. So that's the total population for census 2023. So yeah, there's just we can find, sorry, it started to jump around, the names or the descriptions for the variable field names. And in 2 minutes, I'll try and quickly tell you guys more about the data itself as well. So actually, you can find it in here. So there's a bit of a description about what is included in the data set, as well as if you see -997 and -999, and what they mean. And as I said, we've got those 4 data sets. So, sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, but for example, household by SA1, it's generally got these variables, which are broken down: count of households in occupied and private dwellings, household crowding, usual number of residents. And then for individuals, it's got the census usually resident population count, as well as the Māori descent indicator. And due to the size of the individual's data set, it's been broken up into 2 parts. So I've got part 1 and then part 2.
That's great.
And
Thanks.
yeah, and that's kind of it. I'll just mention with household and dwellings as well. So there is a slight difference with those 2 variables that look at things slightly different. So with households, you've got the number of people in occupied dwellings. Oh, sorry, in private occupied dwellings, whereas in the dwellings data set, it includes occupied and unoccupied dwellings. So yeah.
Oh, ka pai. Thank you.
Yeah, yes. Hopefully that makes sense.
Awesome, Yahua. It's great. And just for those folks wanting that link, it's on the chat, as well as some other notes there in terms of SA1, SA2, and if you're looking for what format to download, I've put a couple of links on there as well. But yeah, put any queries on the chat and I can follow up on those for you. Cool. Thanks, Ehua. Holden, hand it over to you, Ehua.
Ka pai, kia ora Tania, kia ora tātou, ka nui te mihi kia tātou I tēnei ahi. Look, I'm going to just sort of, I had a presentation kind of prepped, but just talking with Dwayne this morning, we thought it might be better just to show you walk through a couple of projects that I'm currently working on. And obviously the big focus will be on the census data, because that's what I've been focusing on lately. But before I do that, there are a couple of things I want to show you, and big mihi to Dwayne for connecting me with this platform. I want to show you something called Google Earth Studio, and I'm just going to share my screen first before I do that. So yeah, Google Earth Studio. It's free, and it lets you, I might do Mātai Moana first. Those of you who live in Pōneke, you'll recognise this. And it's pretty easy to use. You just have to figure out how to use, what do they call them? Key points or something. And what are they called, Dwayne?
Yeah, key points or keyframes, I think.
Keyframes, yeah. And and this one actually does it for you. It automatically orbits around the area that you pinpoint. So yeah, so it's a really cool, and the 3D functionality is in the cities, the 3D quality is really good. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's looking great. We're probably seeing it as a bit one frame every couple of second or so, but when
Oh,
you
yeah,
export the video, it's smooth TV
Yeah.
quality.
it's smooth, it's good quality. So so that was that. I just wanted to share that. One other thing I wanted to share before I get into the census stuff was actually there's a couple of other things real quick. QGIS has its own 3D view functionality, and you get to it through the QGIS interface, but it lets you do things like this. And the cool thing about the functionality of this one is it lets you pause it, frame around, you know. This is using a layer called, well, it's called 1 meter digital elevation model, and it's quite high res, but yeah, that's a thing. So I'll get out of there. Okay, on with the regular programming. So census data. So I've been spending a bit of time tootling around with census data, and thank you, Tania, for that intro, that background. I've been, now where are we? I need to get into my project. The thing about census data, and you can confirm this, Tania, is there's a lot of it. There's a huge amount of it. And you do have to figure out if you're going to use it in QGIS or presumably in ArcGIS as well, just how you're going to chunk down the data. Because if you use the files that come from the site that Tania just talked us through, they'll probably run quite slow. But there's ways around that. Now, just a little bit of thing on organizing your data if you're going to get into census data. So it starts at TLA level, territorial authorities or councils, census SA3 level, which I don't know if you mentioned, there's SA3 level, Tania? Yeah, so that's at a suburb level, and it basically looks like that. So I don't know what that is. I just randomly, it's population. Yeah, population for the inner city Pōneke. And I just put the C, so those are the suburb names. That's SA3 level. I like to keep my SAs 3, 2, and 1 separate and my TLA separate so that I know where everything is. SA2 level is what I kind of like to think of as suburb level. So it's below a suburb level. This will take a while to load because of the size of the file. It's below suburb level, and often the suburbs will be split into, for example, North Karori, yeah, here we are, West Karori, South Karori, East Karori, and so on. Whereas at the SA3 level, it was just one whole suburb. So that's SA2 level. Then you get into SA1 level, and that's when you can make quite, detailed maps. That looks something like this. So that's Tāmaki Makaurau. That's percentage of reo speakers at a statistical area 1 level. So what I've done here too, just in QGIS, just a few tips about things you can use in QGIS. There's a thing called spatial bookmarks. And if you're working at a national level, spatial bookmarks are really handy. So I've set up spatial bookmarks for Ōtautahi, Pōneke, and Tāmaki. And I can go through in this little project of mine. Oh, here we are, percentage of Māori. I'll turn that one off. sorry. Yeah. So percentage of Māori, and you'll see there it kind of matches quite closely the percentage of reo speakers. Not exactly, of course, because the percentage of reo speakers is all reo speakers who said in the census that they speak te reo. Didn't say to what level of fluency, but it's a measure, you know. And so that's, and then you can, the cool thing with the spatial bookmark is you can go to Pōneke, or Tautahi, and so on. But what I wanted to do, spend most time on, and this is at, again with census data, is look, I had to remind me, use this one for today's demo.
Good naming. Good file
Yeah.
naming.
Yeah,
User friendly.
user friendly. Okay. One of the cool things about QGIS and mapping generally is you can get creative with color. And there's something about a color ramp that I just love. You know, a good color ramp. I know it sounds really geeky, but a good color ramp just brings me joy. And I like this color ramp. I don't know what it's called, but I liked it so much that I translated it across to my attribute table. There's no meaning in
That is
those
very
colors.
enthusiastic. Looks good though.
Yeah, and if you're interested in learning figuring out how you do that, you just use this little thing here called conditional formatting. And conditional formatting lets you, so for example, let's say I wanted to change the percentage who bike to work figure. I just go to percentage bike. I've already set it here, you see. But if let's say I wanted to make it, I don't know, green or whatever. I don't want to make it green, but I just see that's how you do it. It's pretty easy once you know how to do it. And it just lets you color up your attribute table in a way, and you can do it horizontally too. So you can color it in a way that corresponds to the classes on your map, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I just talking about the attribute table here for a minute. One thing I've figured out with census data is there's two things. There's the absolute number and then the percentage of that thing in the broader population. So, for example, you've got here you've got real speakers. Let's go to just going to move to Tāmaki. Oh, just what I was doing there. Your attribute table in QGIS kind of works a little bit like a Excel spreadsheet, but it's simpler in some ways. You just click on as long as they're numerical entries and not text string, you can just click on there and you go from smallest to largest. Click again, you go from largest to smallest. So you've got a lot of Māori speakers in Tāmaki. A lot of people in Tāmaki said they speak te reo at some level, 43,563 actually. But the percentage of Māori speakers in Tāmaki is quite low. Is that making, I can't tell if that's making sense.
Yeah.
So there's an absolute number, then there's the percentage. And when you're using statistical census data, often what people are more interested in is the percentage and not the absolute number, if that makes sense. I might pause there if there's any questions. Probably not.
No, that's going good. Hold on.
Okay, keep going. I'll keep going.
And do you remember, question for you, from me?
Yes.
Do you remember
Yep.
the formula for percentage? Is it something like 100 divided by total population times Māori speakers or something like that?
So this is where it gets interesting with QGIS, because what you've got to do is you've got to, and if you're working at SA1 level, even at TLA level, at council level, you don't want to do 67 separate calculations. I mean, there's easier ways to do it, and the easier way to do it is to use your field calculator. Now, your field calculator is in your attribute table. In fact, let's do that, eh? I'm gonna get rid of, I'm gonna delete out Māori speakers, and yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm going to, no, I'll keep those there. What I'll do is I'll go, oh, here's how you do it. Okay. You have to learn a little bit of what's called, it's kind of like SQL, structured query language. It's a computer language, and QGIS uses it in its field calculator. Now, I don't know how to speak SQL, but I do know how to talk to ChatGPT. And what I do to get my codes is my code snippets to help me with this stuff is I talk to ChatGPT and say, how do I calculate, what is the QGIS expression code snippet thing for calculating a percentage of something when the one column is your numerator and the other column is your denominator, if that makes sense. And I've kind of learnt it by heart. So you go, let's say you wanted to calculate percentage of Māori population, shall we say? Oh, was I going to do speakers? Real speakers. I'm going to create a new column. I'll create a new field. I'm going to call it, the field type is going to be decimal number real, which lets you go to decimal places. Geez, I hope this works. Then I go round. Then I go 2 brackets. Then I type in real speakers, and it should populate it. See what's happened there? It's populated it. Divided by total pop, eh? Sorry, the total population, that stands for total population.
Yep.
Then I close the bracket. Then I go like this, a little asterisk and 100, and then a comma, and then a 1. And the 1 tells the field calculator to calculate that percentage to 1 decimal place. And the asterisk and 100 tells it to turn it into a percentage, and you get the real speakers over total population. Then you just close the bracket, and there we are. The preview is showing you down there that it's going to come up with a proper output. I'm going to call it auto percentage of real. Auto real. Percentage real. And then I'm just going to move this thing here because it's getting in the way of my OK button. I'm going to hit apply. And there we are. So that's how you calculate. So that's the formula. Unfortunately, one of the frustrating things with QGIS is it doesn't retain the code snippet that you just used for that calculation. But you'll get used to it. It's round, bracket, the numerator, the number that you want to calculate as a percentage of, divided by, or using that, yeah, I'm going to do it round dot bracket bracket that is, what do you call that? Backslash is a divided command, divided by, and then total. It's really cool when you get the hang of this thing because it can calculate, like at an essay 1 level, it will do the whole country just with one click of a button. Comma to 1 decimal place. Or if you want to calculate it to no decimal places, you put in 0.
And then close bracket after that.
And then close bracket. So how do I put this in the chat if anyone's interested?
I've got it there ready, just done just now, mate. I copied it.
Thank you. How am I going for time?
You're good.
Okay, so that's, and you could do that. And what I've done with this attribute table is I've just filtered it for the things that I thought we might be interested in today. Percentage Māori population, percentage of reo speakers. But actually you can do that for it. Like I've looked at income levels, home ownership, percentage of people who bike to work, and you just use that same formula, but you substitute the thing you're wanting to calculate. Geez, I'm not explaining myself very well, am I?
It's fine, mate. It's good. I was going to ask you, Patai, so to get these fields, what you've done, I know you've done quite a significant process of getting it out of Data Explorer, which is a different tool, but for Whānau wanting to do this the quick way, if they were to go to follow Tania's instruction on Data Finder, download, there's a small task to adjust the column headings, but essentially they can find some of these same like Māori population, total population, reo speakers.
You can, but the key thing, and Tania mentioned it, is your lookup table. Because the lookup table will give you, see, I don't know if this is the lookup table, but it's I've filtered, see, half the time I can't remember what I've done, how I've done it, but all I know is this thing gives me all the councils. Gives me the full detail of the you see, so it gives you the all the information that you need for the categories of, and after a while you get to know, for example, Māori descent. I know it's around here somewhere, and the one you want for that said they were of Māori descent is that one. Am I right, Tania? Māori descent indicator number 1.
Looks good.
Yeah, and the way I checked that was you can download a totals spreadsheet, and the 2023 census we were at 978,246, just under 1 million. So like I say, after a while you get to know which one is which. But the key thing, and look, I haven't explained it very well. The key thing is your lookup table, because if you just transfer across the plain data set, often it'll have just the variable numbers, and they make no sense to anyone. Whereas the lookup table looks a bit more like this, and it lets you see which one you want. Do you want to make any comment there? I didn't explain that very well, Tania.
Oh, that was good. But yeah, just as Holden said, just refer to the lookup table. When you bring in those values, because they definitely they don't make sense to anyone else. The part 1, 2.
Yeah, that's right. So now what I'm going to do now is just show you a couple of things with styling. When you're styling using a color ramp, see, what I've done here is with this one, this is showing Māori population, and these are the categories. Interestingly, the area with the highest percentage of Māori in the population is the Chatham Islands, Wharekauri, 70.1%. That's high.
Yeah.
Now, with your styling, what you do is what I've done is I've set the project up so that I can, oh, hang on, before I do that. What it's currently using is a styling mode or a classification mode called equal count. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think equal count kind of divides up, if you've got, say, 100 features or 100 councils, say, and you've got 10 classes, it'll put 10 into each class. That's how I see equal count. You have to play around with these things, because some of them just, I've got to classify that. Hang on.
I guess there's no right or wrong.
There's no right or wrong
style. There are books written about this, of how maps tell lies, because you can, it's all interpretation, and it's just finding what's the one that suits you, isn't it?
Yeah. See, if I use pretty breaks and I classify it, I've classified it, and then I apply it to the map, the percentages look nice in the classification, in the legend, but then when you go to, hang on, I'm just going to have to click down here. When you apply it,
watch the map. Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't look too bad. Let's try natural breaks. Oh, that looks pretty good as well. When I say it looks pretty good, what I like to see is a spread of color across the color band that you're using, the color ramp that you're using. What you don't want to see that in Ōtautahi, it's getting a little bit monochrome. This is all just an aesthetic thing for me, but you just play around with let's try equal interval now. I wasn't classifying it properly before. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, it allows you to see the most dense. Like, interestingly, it's shaded Gisborne and Opotiki, but not necessarily far north.
Yeah.
In this color.
The key thing to keep in mind is that you just have to experiment with the mode of how the color ramp is being applied. The platform will never lie. It'll just represent the color in the way that you've told it. And I'll be honest, I don't fully understand what each one does. I just know what I like when I see it.
Holden, see how it's got the classes just to
Yeah.
the right a bit there. It says 63.
Yep.
Can you have a fiddle with that? Maybe make it
Yeah.
show the difference between 5 and maybe 3.
I like to do about 6 to 8. Yeah, see, that's darkened up.
Allows you to see. What if you change that to, say, a smaller number, just for comparison?
Yeah.
Like maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, and this is where you learn. If you just tutu around with some of these variables.
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
So you see this one, you think, oh man, look at all those Māori from East Coast right across to Taranaki, and except for that little bit there, but it's kind of not, it's...
Yeah.
It's not.
This comes back to your point. It's you can make the 6 is a good number of
Yeah.
classes. I like 6.
I think the books say something like at most 7 that people can distinguish between.
Yeah. See, with 6, you're just at a level where you can make out, you know, obviously here, Te Tairāwhiti or Pōtiki, down Tūranganui-a-Kiwa, and Tai Tokerau, and Taumarunui, and yeah, and they are high percentage, and there's a bit of distinction between some of the regions and Ōtautahi as well, so that's kind of at a good level. So there's that. And if you load up your project in the way that I've done it, you can see what I've done is we go into the attribute table again. I've put all these in the one attribute table.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Tania, that thing about giving columns sensible names, that's really important because you can soon get really confused with the census terminology because it makes no sense to anyone. And whereas this, you know, total pop, Māori pop, reo speakers, bike, that's absolute numbers of bike to work. By the way, Nelson City takes out the top honour for being the highest bike to work city in Aotearoa. 8.1. But interestingly, if you go to Christchurch is a very high bike to work city. How do I know this?
Holden, there's Anita's just yelling from the audience, whakatū represent.
Yeah. Yeah, Nelson is the highest at a TLA level. Christchurch is not far behind, but Christchurch has the highest Statistical Area 1 level of bike to work in the country at just on 50%. And I think it was that, if I recall, sorry, this is a static map. That area there, so south Christchurch somewhere. I like to use Māori names, all the Māori place names, and there's a layer for that. I'm sure Dwayne's got the link for that.
Okay, great.
And yeah, but even at a general level, you can see there's upwards of 30 to 50%, quite a high proportion of Christchurch has high bike to work rates. Does that look like it makes sense, Tania? I'm wanting to sense check this.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Because it's nice and flat, huh? Who knows?
Yeah, I always give Dad stick about bike lanes because they don't really work until you complete the network, kind of like a railway track.
Yeah.
Run the train until you can go from A to B.
While I'm on that, I'm just
They've done a lot, haven't they?
touring around my desktop. Yeah, I haven't biked in Christchurch, but I've certainly biked in Wellington, and it's getting better. It's certainly getting better. Here's Ōtautahi, bit of a case study on Ōtautahi. I don't know Ōtautahi geography, but the central Christchurch, not high home ownership rates for some reason. But in the south and in the north, it gets higher. Percentage of those on over 100K. You can get all this from the census data. This is the stuff that Tony was talking about. Percentage of those earning over 100K. There's a real concentration here in central Christchurch and to the south. Drive to work. not surprisingly. The further out from central, I'm guessing this is the square or something. Hagley Park, maybe, I don't know. Anyone from Christchurch on the call? Anyway, the further out from the centre of Ōtautahi you get, the more you're likely to drive to work. Some statistical area 1 areas, as many as 100% drive to work. Oh, and here's the comparison between percentage of Māori across Ōtautahi and percentage of reo speakers. It kind of generally matches, but not exactly, if that makes sense.
Yes, the thing with these, with all of our maps, Holden, is often the smallest areas have the most the most data, like the most dense,
Yes.
the most
Yes.
of X, Y, and Z, and there's no easy way to get around that, and that's why we fiddle with those color ramps quite a bit.
Yep.
And there are, I mean, you can do grids. And I know Carl at Stats, when he was at Stats, did a lot of grids, square grids like maths paper, but
Yep.
it's kind of challenging to interpret sometime.
Yeah. I might just, I'm conscious of the time here, and another thing I just wanted to share with the whānau was, this is what got me into mapping, was my getting connected back to my whakapapa back in Taranaki, and particularly to Ngāti Maru or Maru Wharanui. And I've been privileged to have been involved in taking our claim through to the settlement process and landing that process. And but initially when I got involved back in the 90s, I don't even know if GIS was a thing in the 90s, but my uncle Puno gave us a map that showed our area of interest, basically this shape here. And I remember thinking, gee, wouldn't it be neat to be able to show all the dock land, you know, all the Māori freehold land and that sort of thing. And I finally got round, spurred on by the fact that I was going to be talking on this call, to putting it all into one map that in a way that shows what we own, what Ngāti Maru owns, the Māori freehold land in our rohe, the dock land that has statutory acknowledgements, the dock land that doesn't have statutory acknowledgements, and the water catchments that have statutory acknowledgements. And I got round to doing those 2-line labels, which are kind of tricky. If anyone wants to know how to do 2-line labels, just let me know. There's an easy way to do it, and that's just, well, ask ChatGPT, but it's pretty, yeah, there's just a bit of a knack to that. And I've got 2 more minutes, so the last thing I wanted to show people was just this thing that I've written a beginner's manual for QGIS, and it looks like this.
Oh, nice.
I'm soft launching it right now. So if anyone wants a copy, just email me at holden.hohaia@extra.co.nz, and I'll send you a signed PDF version of it. Manaaki Whenua's gonna launch it eventually or publish it eventually, but their publication pipeline process takes forever. And to my mind, this is a minimum viable product. It's good to go. Be interested in your feedback as to whether it's useful or not. And I might leave it there. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora e wā. Holden, could you just check your email? I put in the chat, holden.hohaia@extra.co.nz.
Yep, that's the one.
Sweet. Cool. Thanks, Ewa.
Yeah, I'm just going to scroll quickly through.
Yeah, please do.
It uses Manaaki Whenua layers, and the reason I've used Manaaki Whenua layers is because it was easier for me to do that in a way where I didn't have to faff around with licensing requirements and stuff. but it takes you through the basics, getting started, adding layers, clipping layers, spatial bookmarks. I've talked about spatial bookmarks, how to apply a QML file, which is a thing that automatically styles up the colors that the map was designed for. And then it goes through a number of data sets that Manaaki Whenua has: land cover, land use classification, historical wetland, and my favorite, historical forest. These are just models, by the way. These are not saying this is what was definitely there. These are just saying what they say as a model, and the definitions for them are all contained in the information here. Detailed info about the training data can be found via the following links. The other thing this helps you go through is how to get set up on the coordinates account that Tania mentioned, how to add a topo map from LINS. There we are, a bit of a plug for LINS, and how to add WMTS layers or web map tile server layers. They look like this. I'm going to stop because I'm rambling now.
That's great. Thank you, Ahua. We probably have got just a couple of minutes if anybody has any pārtai. Just wanted to, I'll just put on a link on the chat there. Maria, I think it was Maria, was asking about how to access the data without download. So there are various sources online that are more into the Esri side. The live links from Stats, the WFS, are probably still better to download with first. But I had a tutu a few nights ago and created a story map, which is the links on the chat. So if you click that just now, you can have a look at it after we finish. It just goes through and it uses that same data that you would have seen Holden using as well. And I just sort of picked some places, and you can scroll through and have a tutu there.
Yeah, if you're going to be working in a small area, a WFS is good enough because that's good for working in small areas. But if you want to download, if you want to connect to the whole of Aotearoa without downloading, a web map tile service is probably better. And you've got those options on the LINS website anyway, and probably on the Stats website as well. Tania, jump in if I've got that wrong, but you just go into the query information and get the option you want.
Yeah, that site works for LINS, Ngāti Te Whenua, Tatauranga Stats NZ, and also MFE as well. They all got the same site. So you set up one username password so you can download and access those services, and it doesn't matter which site you use the same username password, and it's all free to download. All right, well, that has been a great session today. Just want to shout out to you, Holden. It's been a great session as always, and I always like seeing how you used QGIS and how you've progressed over the years, because we've known each other for a while, and it's been cool watching your maps. And some of them are really popular online, because I've seen you post those a few in the Facebook chats and things. And yeah, ka pai awa.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Have a great week. We see you next month. And
see you next month.
Invite coming out soon.